A warm welcome to you all to ProConnect panel discussion. Today, we are here to have a fascinating discussion on interoperability for collaborative and sustainable built environment. Interoperability is essential for unlocking the full potential of the built environment, enabling enhanced efficiency, sustainability, resilience, and user experience across buildings and urban infrastructure. By fostering seamless integration and communication between diverse systems and technologies, interoperability lays the foundation for smarter, more connected, and more sustainable built environments. To reflect more on the many advantages of interoperability, we have a highly knowledgeable panel today. I welcome Mr. Sandeep Goyal. He is director at ProIron Consultants. He has been engaged in 20 years of working and serving BIS in over 12 committee of various IS standards and embassy sections, including sustainability, plumbing, information, and communication enabled installations and other sections. He plays a major role in having the codes updated based on learnings from global codes and standards and his practice in MEP services, serving his clients with additional handholding from the mentors in the fraternity. Welcome, sir. We have with us today Mr. Kunal Chaudhary. He is a second generation consulting engineer and director at a renowned MEP consulting firm, Udayan Chaudhary and Associates. A mechanical and automation engineer by qualification, Kunal has successfully delivered several prestigious projects in India and abroad. Sustainable design, coupled with proactive use of state of the art technology, have been the cornerstone of his career as a consulting engineer. He has worked extensively with MNCs and renowned global brands over the last 15 years. Welcome, Kunal, sir.
Thank you.
We also have with us Mr. Samdarsh Nayak, Director at SNC, a 30-year-old multidisciplinary BIM-enabled MEP building services engineering design consultancy firm. He has been involved in landmark projects across India for leading developers. He is a BEE certified energy auditor and energy manager, BEE certified ECBC master trainer, and has many similar feathers in his cap. Welcome, Sandarsh.
Thank you.
I now welcome our moderator, Mr. Vijay Sana, Director at TechDen Systems. He is an experienced instrumentation engineer, having worked for over 30 years in the fields of industrial automation, building automation, HVAC, and ELV systems. He is also a celebrated educationist and a core INBACer with multiple critical roles. Welcome, sir, and over to you.
Thank you, Adrija. Thank you. Uh, Again, welcome all for this panel, and I feel really honored to be have given this responsibility of moderating this panel of the experts. And I think we can start with the discussion. Uh, Sandeep sir, we had met before, but the Kunal and Samdarsh were meeting for the first time. So it is nice to have you on this panel. Okay, so my first question goes to Kunal, and it is why it is important to have interdependence of subsystems in any built environment. So we would like to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay, thanks for having me, Vijayji. Thanks, Adrija, for that introduction. And thank my panelists, co-panelists, Samdarsh and Sandeepji. It's always nice to meet them on any platform. The question regarding interdependability or interdependence of various building systems is critical to getting what you're trying to target. So, for example, a fire alarm system or a FAPA system needs to talk back to the BMS uh, today, simply because you want the HVAC systems to react to one signal. I'll give you a small example. Like, if I need to trip my air handling units, I can put a control module on the fire alarm system and trip it off the panel. But a start stop command is going back to my BMS already. So if
Right.
just by integrating my FAPA system with my BMS, I just have to run one signal, and through the BMS, I can actually trip my AHU and my fire dampers rather than running, a multitude of cables. What it also does is that, it makes it simpler for the operator. I think the operator doesn't get talked about enough. I think in design, my colleagues would also probably agree that, we keep ideating and keep improving on designs, and system integrators bring it to life. But when we give a really complex system for the operator to operate, I think that's when the confusion starts, and that's how AI and ML and all these IoT platforms are kicking in, and trying to make the life easier for the end user or the customer. And we try and take out the operator, and we use AI as a means to operate the building the way it was designed or the way it was executed. So it's very important to have all these systems talk to each other, because uh, a small example being, in offices, we generally have VAV boxes in enclosed rooms like the one that I'm sitting in, and there's an occupancy sensor generally for lighting, right? And it all talks back to the lighting management system. Now, to control my aircon, do I need to put a separate sensor? Actually, the answer is no. But I've seen projects in the past, maybe last 4 5 years, where I've seen two sensors in enclosed rooms also, uh, with different designers. Now, the point is, if the LMS and the BMS is seamlessly talking to each other, then I can actually use that, occupancy or vacancy sensor data back to control my HVAC. So if I'm not in my room, I don't want my aircon to run. I can push it up to 26 degrees. So things like that. All these systems, whether it's parking management system, whether it's lighting management, energy management, I think eventually everything needs to talk to everything, and onto a centralized IBMS platform. I think that's what is the need of the hour.
Yeah, that's a good elaboration, Kunal, and I agree with you 100% because as an integrator, we also feel this as a challenge every time because they order the subsystems with no compatibility sometimes, and it becomes very difficult for them to connect with each other. So, can you also share a few examples or case studies?
See, in most of our projects, like especially we do a lot of hotels. So, in hospitality projects, we get a lot of data from the operator or the brand. And if I give you an example of Marriott, I think they are extremely thorough with their BMS requirements. For example, they want everything metered, and moreover, they have a very clear definition in FLS for the kind of cause and effect matrix that the FAPA system is supposed to follow. Now, when we talk about FLS in particular, you have three distinct elements plugging into FLS from an MEP perspective. You have firefighting, which is your sprinklers, your hydrants, your handheld extinguishers, etc. And you have detection, and which is your fire alarm and your detection system and your public address system. And then of course you have your smoke control, or your pressurization and
Right.
your smoke evacuation systems. Now, how do I run a smoke evacuation fan, which I need to test, in a year, probably twice, in a hotel or any public building? Because I mean, all these systems, they need to be operated. Some dry runs have to be done. You need to do some mock drills to be able to see if the system is performing after the handing over of the project, right? So we invariably have these fans talking to the BMS. Okay.
Right.
But in case of an emergency, they're supposed to run off the fire panel, and the fire panel will only give you a signal, if it's communicating seamlessly through the BMS back onto the starter panel of these fans. And these interfaces are clearly earmarked, especially in the hospitality projects I've done for various brands. I find that IHG, Marriott, your Radissons of the world, they do have these processes clearly defined for both the designers and for the system integrators to follow, and then it actually sort of filters down into the operator level also. So I think hotels are a great example where a lot of this engineering, because you're dealing with people who are paying a big amount of money to come stay at these hotels, and they're all influential people. I'm not saying that it should not be done for other projects, but I think hospitality really takes the cake when it comes to such interoperability of systems.
Yeah, that's a good example. I agree 100% with you. The other equivalent thing I would say is this healthcare. The hospitals are also on the similar platform, and some of them are quite well documented, their requirements. So my next thanks Kunal for these views. My next question is to Mr. Samdarsh, and again we would like to know your views on interoperability within subsystems in a building, in any given building. So we would like to know your thoughts about it.
Yeah, you see, uh, my opinion, is that when we talk about building management systems, it is a synonym to interoperability. It doesn't make sense. There is no meaning of having a BMS system or an IBMS system which is not interoperable. It is as good as having independent systems. So definitely, when we design a BMS, it is not just restricted to the air conditioning plant, which was a case once upon a time. We take in the data from even the electrical systems like the generators, the transformers, the electrical panels, the energy metering, the BTU meters, the water meters. When we talk about the plumbing systems, we also take in the complete data from the STP. We have a separate PLC systems for STPs, similarly for the fire pumps, the plumbing pumps, and then the complete fire alarm, public address, as a system, is also brought into the BMS. Security may not be, basis the client brief or their, own security standard. So definitely, it is very, very important that all these systems, they are brought to a common platform and they talk to each other, they communicate to each other. A very good example which Kunal gave of a typical office scenario wherein there is a thermostat which does manages the VAV control, the air control into that room. But then can that thermostat also count as an occupancy sensor, and the lighting, etc., can also be controlled with the same system? So definitely, in terms of interoperability, the building systems will only, like work efficiently, will only deliver the due energy performance, will only, contribute to, like a human occupant well-being when they are interoperable. So definitely, this is very, very important. Yeah.
Yes, and I agree with you 100%. The next question for you again, Samdarsh. Like when we talk about interoperability and as the technology is advancing, and we all think about open protocols. So, like what challenges or barriers do you foresee in this widespread adoption of this open protocols for better operability for the systems, and how can this be addressed? So that is, we would like to hear your thoughts on this.
So, see, my understanding is that open protocols and interoperability can be mutually exclusive as well. That means, even if we do not have an open protocol, say for example, available, systems can still be made interoperable. But definitely having an open protocol helps, because when we have now so many options available in the market, so even in terms of BMS, for example, we have the new age wireless BMS systems coming in, and from a lot of unknown brands, etc. So when we have an open protocol, then we can pick and choose, any DDC of any brand, or maybe the main hardware, the main BMS controller of any other brand, and the two can be brought to communication. So I would cite an example. I was doing a high-end residential project, and now in a typical residence we also have lighting automation, and that complete automation system also takes care of the blinds and the curtains and the audio video system and all. Now there are certain brands which are totally proprietary, in nature. What basically what happens with them is that then we have to restrict ourselves to only use products which are from that brand only, which makes our life very tough, because it may happen that there some products may be exceptional, but then they have certain other products which are not of that superior technical performance. So there, open protocol or the lack of it really makes life painful. So therefore in automation, there is another platform called as KNX. Now that is an open protocol. So you would see that majority of the lighting automation firms like the Schneiders, the Legrand's, etc., the Panasonic and all, they all work on the KNX platform. Why? Because it is an open protocol. It can combine itself with any third party brand, any third party air conditioning, VRV outdoor unit, etc. So definitely interoperability gets much convenient when we have an open protocol, but that is definitely not a showstopper in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with this. Open protocol definitely will help make it more simple. But if we don't have open
Yeah.
protocol, we can still connect them. And as long as we are able to do that, I think interoperability is addressed. And KNX is a very good
Yes.
protocol for the lighting, and the equivalent is BACnet this side. So yeah, so thanks Samdarsh
Correct.
again for your views. And now my question is to Sandeep sir. And we would like to know your views on how can the interoperability make the built environment safe, secure, healthier, and efficient.
Sure. Thank you for this opportunity for interaction. I'm so pleased to know the views of my fellow colleagues as well. Young colleagues with the clarity in their mind. I'm sure this will help us to meet our goals better. You see, I'll become a little more simpler in this case. And I was listening to my colleagues. I said, as colleagues, we would have so many acronyms which we will use commonly. Whether it is artificial intelligence, I heard from Kunal, or machine learning, or Internet of Things. We are really having those common acronyms to talk about. But yes, I think beyond that, there is so much exciting other things to align for. I'll just give you a little background of it. We work for organizations, association. We are into policy making, into many platforms where we try to work around. You see, the major problem comes when people work in silos and they do not talk to each other. And imagine the kind of problems we face in day to day lives when people work in silos, they don't communicate to each other. And if the same level of issues we do see in our building automation systems, in our building planning, which doesn't have a right kind of communication skill sets to transfer data. And I heard, data is, of course, money. People call data is oil. So I think if the data is not going seamlessly, we are losing a lot which we could have achieved for. The best part of the story is that I'll just say from my initial days of my working, I learned something which is known as sequence of operations, and I also learned something which is known as cause and effect matrix. So these are those fine elements of design where you bring in the basics by the designers in the blueprint of what is to be planned and commissioned at the end of the day. My one of my main concern has remained always that as designers we need to lead the way to be clear with what our systems should be doing. A lot of times, when we have people with lack of experience, they do there are problems wherein, because of the lack of experience, understanding, and leadership, we do have the hardware, but the integration of it is lost, and that's where the client actually suffers. And that is very important, that in the blueprint of our proposal we should be very clear about the fundamental objectives. Today, the spectrum of services are so large. It's not just MEPF. We are talking about ICT, Information Communication Technology. We are talking about, of course, IBMS. Today, cameras are not just cameras to keep eyes on people. There is also audio analytics, there is video analytics. We've been using back in our office something which is very simple, which is known as geofencing. So you don't even need a sensor for a person to be there in the room for the light to operate. Probably my cabin light, my office lights can work on the geofencing through my mobile. I enter into my premise, I park my car, my lights of my office comes up. I leave the office, the light switches off. So the days are gone when you are dependent upon the human being present there. It could be so customized that if the person is entering himself, he would have the command and control for the lighting arrangements in his office. Today, the matter is not interoperability when we talk about. It's not just about systems to give efficiencies, but it's also about performances in its completeness. I'll just try to close up this in terms of saying that we are not just talking about EPI. In olden days, my young colleagues, I like to tell them we used to, and maybe if you talk to your senior colleagues back at your knowns, you will know that in hotels we used to have something which is known as HLP, heat, light, and power. Those were the days when diesel fuel, the power as well as the heating mechanisms were the part of the analysis of the performance of the building. Today we are moving towards EPI, Energy Performance Index. We are also talking, and I'm glad that Samdarsh also touched about plumbing. So we are talking about, and you have written very rightly, Vijayji, in terms of Jal Hai to Kal Hai. This is something which we need to have as a part of our system. We need to integrate, and we can speak a little bit ahead as we move ahead on the conversation. I think with the various kind of diversified occupancies, from, I call them, very, my favorite occupancies are three: sleeping accommodations, hotels, hospitals, and homes. The kind of varied use you have on all these three occupancies, although they come with the same alphabet as H, but you could see how different they become. They are all sleeping accommodations, but the expectation of a healthcare where building automation plays a very crucial role, specifically in terms of resilience, hotel where it plays a lot of role in terms of energy saving, and homes in terms of water and energy metering. I think we have got different types of diversified occupancies, and we need to integrate them very sincerely. As designers, I think I take the ownership of bringing the transparency before really going to the manufacturer and saying that they are not doing good. I think as consultants, it's our duty that we have the transparency and the clarity in what we want. And then I think we will get all the helping hands from the society, whether it is the OEMs or the system integrators, to meet our objectives of interoperability. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your insight, and it's really, really important. One more question for you. Do you believe that the implementation of smart technologies in the built environment can have also a positive impact? And how do you feel that it can happen?
Well, sir, as I said to you, Vijayji, smart technologies are today going leaps and bounds. Every day there is a new learnings which are happening. I was just talking about solar to Kunal the other day, and I said, who could say that solar is not smart? If you could have some good elements of design within the solar systems to make sure that your solar utilization is optimized, you would. And I'll tell you one more thing, Vijayji. Let me tell you, this all things don't cost too much. It's
Right.
just that how you put your things in the perspective of achieving your goals. And I'm sure my colleagues will also agree, things are getting not that very costly. They're becoming affordable. Back at home, people like us, as on a very on a level of providing these kind of facilities, not only for the projects we work in, but also our own lifestyles. Affordability is the key. These things are becoming also scalable. I don't need to invest the entire money today. I can always invest money further ahead. You're talking about vertical transportation today. You're talking about mobility today. You're talking about systems and technologies to monitor themselves and do predictive analysis of maintenance requirements. Analog addressable fire alarm system, I learned in 1995. In those days, the director used to tell about his own health. Am I clean? Do I need a cleaning arrangement or not? Things are moving better. So I think the whole idea is these systems are available. Smart technologies could be as your smartness could bring them together. I think the smartness comes also for people like us to integrate that and bring them together. And then only I think the overall the spectrum of the smart buildings will emerge in its fullest form. I think innovation is the key. Ideas are there around. We we have got a lot of exposure working with global clients. All three of us, we've been working with some of the best names in the fraternity. We keep meeting and talking to them. And I think creating these kind of benchmarks helps us to bring more smart driven technologies into our projects. And I think I urge to have them in our lifestyle to actually bring the glory of sustainability, water conservation in our means and ways. Then only I think the country goes to the path of decarbonization, and not just limit our working towards the clients who are entrusting us with these kind of assignments, but also in our lifestyles. And I think we are committed, all of us are committed to bring that ahead, please.
Yes, yes, thank you. What we used to say during the earlier days that if you talk about the automation, three things need to be addressed. One is that comfort and convenience for the buildings. Second is safety and security, and the third is energy saving. And if you have smart systems, obviously all these three will have impact on it, and it has to be positive. Otherwise, you don't call that technology smart. So, so yes,
But it
and
takes time. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Vijayji. It has taken a couple of years from micro USB, USB, Lightning, now to down to Type C.
right,
It
right.
has taken us a lot of time to bring only the charger of the mobile phone into one common platform of USB Type C. And you see the kind of hardware and the kind of, actually, if you really see environmental damage we would have created by having different silos within this domain of so much, such a simple thing, which is like a charger of a cell phone. How diversified we have been, and what kind of a damage it would have done to the society, all of us carrying different cables in our luggages for our different, appliances which we use.
Yeah, and now one charger for the family, and I think that does the job. Okay, so this is thank you again, and this is the last question for all of us. What are important views of India's capital, that is New Delhi, on built environment, as it is a super important hub of public and private sectors and state of the art buildings. It could be Delhi, it could be Mumbai, so all these metros what we talk about. So yeah, so anybody can take it.
I'll go first if
Yeah.
it's okay. So, I think living in metro cities, I think we are all, nobody is safe from all the traffic and the pollution and the noise, and it's a pleasant thing to go away from the city every now and then. I'm hearing a lot of people talking about second homes, third homes, where they can just get away from the city after their work and maybe just go away for the weekend. And to decongest our streets, to have better outdoor air quality, to have a better life overall. I mean, we are all human beings, and frankly, the way we are living right now, and the kind of stresses that we go through as people living in these huge metros is a bit frightening. And if it can only get worse from here, so it's about time that we use technology and we use all that is under our control to control the built environment, to make sure that there are a lot of parking spots in the built environment, maybe a proper parking management system that allows you to park your car where it's supposed to be. I think those simple things also help decongest roads. I mean, if half the car parks and the on the roads, they go away and they are put into buildings like they're supposed to be, I think quite a lot of the traffic problem can be solved. And we talk about smart cities, and it has to start with our major metros. And I know that the government is doing a lot of work with smart cities around India. But I mean, if the national capital or the financial capital of India, if these two aren't smart, then what is? So I think it's important for us to target on these metros. It's good to have a second or third home. Even I aspire to have one, but Delhi for me is my home, and I want to stay in Delhi and comfortably. So that's where I see technology coming in and helping us out.
Yeah, that's good. And I think there has to be the ownership also from the policy owners and policy makers. Because I remember one of the early days, one of my trip to US, and this must be 10, 15 years back, and I saw one building being constructed, and there was a huge area around that building. And I asked my colleague that that building is fine, but why such a huge area is like empty? And he said that building occupies 5,000 cars, will occupy 5,000 cars. And this empty area is for all those cars to park, plus the visitors. So they are not allowed to construct a building unless they have all these provisions made. And we see these problems in most of the cities. And this is little off the subject, but if policymakers decide, definitely there can be a lot of things happening. Yeah. So moving on. Samdarsh, what are your views on this?
Yeah, my views are quite strong, I would say, on this. You see, we are known in India to have the most polluted cities in the world. We
100%.
are a nation of 1.4 billion people, and I think there was another very good book I was reading about, India and Indians, and there was a foreign guy, and when he left India, went back, he said India is a beautiful country, but Indians have a very different negative attitude. They have an attitude to blame, others for their problems. So they will blame the government, they will blame their neighbors, they will blame other people. But it is time that we as an individual also start looking at ourselves. I think it just boils down to that. It just boils down to that. We are educated people, literate people, and simple waste segregation at our homes, we don't do. And you see these big landfills all across Delhi NCR. You go to towards Chandigarh side, there is a huge landfill. When you leave that Gazipur area, you go to Bandwari near this Terry Gwal Pahadi area. There is a huge landfill. Similarly, with the plight of our cities, Kunal very beautifully explained, that at the end of the day, Delhi is the city where he wants to live, where we want to live, but it is no longer livable. So, it is not just about public policy. It is not just about whether companies allow work from home or maybe a hybrid system to bring down the number of cars, on the roads, or whether we make smart or super smart buildings. It boils down to, I mean, like us as an individual as well, as to how we are, doing, our bit for the environment. And I feel that, a lot of it goes down to our education system. We, probably, as people of this field, we have learned the subject. But what happens in our schools? There can be moral values, there can be spiritual values, there can be general education. But are we really focusing on how we as individuals can contribute to a more sustainable world, for a more connected world, for a more, like environment friendly, atmosphere? So my views are frankly, this on the subject, that I think, so there was a study in the US wherein they made 10 net zero homes, and after 1 year, the outcome was, of the study was that there are no net zero homes, there are net zero people. So it is basically, bottom line is that my opinion is very strongly. I mean, I'm sorry, maybe a little bit off the topic, but I feel that, it is we as an individual, who has to work upon and improve.
Yeah, that is 100% true, and I tend to agree with what you said, because it like
Yeah.
it
So
starts from
that's from
you.
my side. Yeah.
Yeah, it starts from you. Like whether it is segregation of waste or switching off the lights, even whether you have home automation or you don't have home automation, it is your responsibility to switch on or off light as required. Right. So it starts with the self and how you discipline yourself in public. So many things. So like we can go on talking about this, and
So sorry to interrupt, Vijay. I will give you a small example of how public policy also, helps create awareness. So what happens is, in China or in Japan, there are these guidelines that during summer months you will not wear blazers. It's a simple, straightforward public policy. Straightforward. So when you wear a blazer during the summertime, you have to put a set point of maybe a 23 or a 22 in office.
right.
So similarly, they say during winters, wear a sweater. We will turn heating only when it is very cold, but you wear a sweater and a jacket and please sit in office. So I think from a public policy, from a building operation perspective, I think these are some small aspects which can be implemented.
Right. Yes, Sandeep ji.
I feel personally speaking, while Delhi is being looked upon, obviously at the global level of what is happening, the seat of power is sitting here. The the movers and shakers of the country are in Delhi and of course in Mumbai, in Bangalore, Hyderabad, large IT block centers and whatnot. I think India as a whole has got all these excellence areas which catch the eyes of the world. Right from even cities in Ahmedabad in Gujarat, you have got a World Cup match happening there. You are having some kind of exhibitions happening. So I think every place in India is really, really coming into the eyes of the world, and things do escalate to the level of interest of the people. I personally believe very strongly, and I also agree with a lot with Samdash over here that there is a lot which has to be done at the grassroots level. How many of us are actually, I will not look at Delhi. Now, if you, okay, chalo, since you talked about Delhi, we have got buildings like Bharat Mandapam, we have got Parliament which is coming up, we have got Yasho Bhumi, we have got all these large mega buildings which are happening here. And why only here? Because they are being done by the government. Having said that, there are private buildings, there are all kind of buildings. I feel personally, as as a as a consultant, as a part of the society, as a part of contributing in our ways and means, where is the data? Data is not available in public domain. I would like to
Right.
really compare my building with some other building, and I would like to see the real data which could be looked at to transform my building into a better building. That data is not available. Now, I'll be very candid again over here. We had this 9 by 11 US. All the proceedings of the investigations are available today on NIST. You can go and check NIST website of the federal government. Each and every data of the devastation of 9 by 11 are available today after more than 20 years. That data was there in place. Unfortunately, incidents happen in India. We do not have any public domain available authorized by the government to know what exactly happened. If there is an electrical accident, there is a fire accident, that is not available. If there is excellence, that data is not available as a part of domain expertise availability for people like us to see and visualize. If that building is able to perform at that LPD, why can't we do that? Now we go to our clients, and the clients will give us some data about them. Some of it is also, to be honest with you, manipulated, because they would also like to go back to their management saying that they are doing glorious performance in their back of the house and engineering areas. But where is the real data? That data, whether it is for Yashobhumi or for Bharat Mandapam, is not available for people like us to be inspiring. We just see the building very nicely done, but that data is missing. How many of us are actually putting an energy meter back at home? What does an energy meter cost today to check the air conditioning consumption of at your home, at your office? We are not putting that. That's simple automation. You just need to put a three phase or a single phase meter, take a reading and check if your air conditioning is not doing well, if the thermostat is not cutting off, the refrigerant is not going well. Don't just experience it by the temperature of the air which is coming from the grill. Electrical patterns, the starting current, the power consumption tells you how inefficient the compressor is becoming. How many of us are having a water efficient fixture? You go to Get Kailash and say, I want a tap for my wash basin. Can you tell me what is the flow rate rating of that tap? That information, I would again say one more thing. You see, it's important that information is available in the commercial market for people to also know about it and to be then disseminated, to be told how much water does your household consume. If we have data, we can manage. Solar PVs, we have a 5 kilowatt back at home solar PV, we reveal it back to grid. But where are the things which are becoming such case studies available for common man to be inspiring to do that? So much of roof we have. I think if I go back to Kunal, I'm just citing out, or to Sandash and say, guys, why don't you do that? I think they will be ones who will say, okay, Sandeep ji, आप बताइए कैसे करना है, थोड़ा सा guide कर दीजिए हमें. But the problem is information is not available to inspire youngsters like them or even to a larger society. And we do not have any information which we could secure, obtain, and use in the interest of the better world It's just that you have to do a lot of deep dive to get to that information. And I think information, training, education, data is the key for a successful India.
That's a real great insight, Sandeep ji, and I think we all will agree to that what he said. And I cannot agree more with your last thing, that the youngsters, they have to now take it on. And they're like, I see two youngsters sitting here, so definitely they have to be responsible. So yeah. So with that note, like any more comments, Kunal and Samdarsh?
The
All
last,
good. Thank you, Vijayji.
I just had one comment. I think we started talking about it, and I firmly believe that, for us MEP consultants, the line between technology and MEP is completely blurred.
Yes.
And I think today, as a mechanical, electrical, or even a civil engineer who works in our field, I think one has to be right on top of technology today and ensure that all these systems and subsystems talk to each other so that we can, collect the data that Sandeep ji was talking about, not just for commercial buildings, but even our homes. Why not? So
Right.
final thought.
Yeah, that's good. And okay, so thank you very much. It was great interacting with you guys, and even I learned quite a bit in this conversation. So what do you